begins with Giggle McDimple.
Yeah.
Toy Story 4. Now, there is a funny story to how you got this part.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
How did you get cast as Giggles McDimples, honey?
It was a moment where I was feeling so defeated. I was just like, there might not be any place for me in this industry. So I remember building up to this like frustration, and then I just needed a release, right? It's always like that, like, and then, okay, fine. I'm gonna take my power back in whatever way that was. So I remember on a weekend, it was on a Saturday, I got my dog, Jesse, who you know, my nephew, Trav, and a friend, and we just got our camera, and they had those Vogue 73 questions videos, which I love. I think they're amazing. And I wanted to kind of make my own version of it, of like, kind of just, I'm kind of this like messy girl, you know, of like kind of self-deprecating, like a little bit unsure. So I wanted to make kind of my version of what maybe that would look like. So we just went out and we did it on a Saturday, and I didn't really think that much of it. I just was like, I just want to make something. You know, I had that feeling like, I just want to make something like authentically me. Released it, you know, it didn't get that many views. So I was just like, oh, whatever. Like a couple of years later.
I think we have that clip. Let's just show a quick 5-10 seconds of at least 73 questions for both. All right, here we go. Let's have a look at
that. Hey, no, it's Garrick. Is this Allie?
Why?
We're that camera crew.
I don't want to buy any shit. Leave my property now.
No, we're not selling anything.
God, I will shit out of you.
Is that a screwdriver? No, wait. No. We're the camera crew that you hired to do this video for your channel. 73 questions.
For Vogue?
What?
Is this for Vogue?
No.
Did Anna send you?
Who?
Anna Wintour.
What?
Oh my God, this is like a crazy day. Come in. Was I selected to be the next recipient of 73 questions?
No.
Oh my God, this is so exciting.
All right. I guess we'll get started.
Yeah.
Allie, I mean, I just can't with you.
She's a mess. She's a mess. This girl.
But subsequent, being brave, what happened?
So I ended up just out of nowhere, just getting offered a role in Toy Story 4. And for that to be like, just imagine a phone call and they're like, hey, Allie, so they just want you to be in this movie. I was like, what movie? And they're like, Toy Story 4. I'm like, what do you mean? So I ended up asking all the producers, like, how did this even happen? Like, imagine like getting a cold call just like in the middle of the day. And they're like, well, our casting department found this video that you made online, and that was it. We just saw it and we're like, that's the girl. And I think there's something so just like such a powerful lesson in that for me, is that you know, I made that purely just from my heart, with no budget, with nothing but just like authentically my voice and what I found funny or interesting about the world. And it's just moments like that that are so teachable to me, because it's like, oh, I didn't think anyone would care about this. Like, I don't think anyone would resonate with this. And that's something so beautiful, I think, about social media, is it has given people of color, especially the Asian American community, well, not especially, but, you know, the Asian American community has found such power and such voice in that. Because, you know, when I first started, it was all these kids in their bedroom, you know, just telling their stories for the first time, and being able to find an audience from across the world or across the country that were able to resonate with them. And for me, it was the same thing. Like, I uploaded that to YouTube, and, you know, who knows who was going to see it, but it was cool that they were one of the people. And so that's why I always say, like, especially to younger people, like, make your own content. Like, don't worry about.
It doesn't matter how many views. It only takes one person. You just need the one right person to see it.
Exactly. And then from there, it's like how fulfilling it is to know that because I was authentically myself and the things that I found funny, that's kind of how I got this role. So that when I went into the recording booth and I was like, you know, old Allie being like, well, what do you guys want from me? They're like, no. Like, we cast you because of you.
Right.
And I was like, for me? Like, well, what do you mean? Like, what's the giggle? You know, I kept saying, like, okay, she's called Giggle McDimples. What's the giggle? Like, no, your laugh. Like, your laugh, like Allie's laugh. That's what we just want you to be you.
It was such a round circle moment when when Toy Story got that Oscar. I'm kind of speechless because it was almost like a fairy tale. It was like, how did we go from that apartment when we first met each other, we were trying those dresses, to the Oscars and Toy Story winning? And what I love that you said, and you were really good about this, you said that, obviously the directors, producers, but when they came to the dinner, they brought the Oscar, they passed it around the room. So everyone who had been a part of that journey of making that film could hold it.
Yeah.
And just I can only imagine, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I can only imagine that 14-year-old girl who moved to LA and was, ostracized to being the sidekick or the best friend, is standing in a room holding an Oscar. That's powerful.
And I think,
that's powerful.
and I think because of the way that I got the role, it was because of my authentic voice and the creation of the role, obviously along with our amazing director Josh Cooley and the team, but like so much of it was them being like, no, like it's you, like just bring you. I think that holding that Oscar was just, it represented all of that, like it really did. And you're right, it was such a full circle moment.
So if you can describe for me in that moment when you were holding the Oscar, how did you feel?
The statue is just a statue, right? And it's more so, I think for me, it represented all of that. Like my whole entire journey here of constantly feeling like, okay, maybe this isn't possible, of people, being like, no, it's not possible for you, of not having a seat at the table, but trying to fight to make one. I think it represented all of that, like just all the hurdles, the ups and the downs. I think it represented me being 14 and saying to my family, like, I'm going to go, I'm going to pursue this dream. I don't even know if it exists, but I'm going to make it happen. Like that's just it. I think it represents my grandmother's dream of, being in the internment camps when she was a teenager, but after she got out, being like, I'm still going to make a life for myself. And it represented my great grandparents who, they boarded a steamship to get here and then swam to the shore to get to America. I think it represents all of those things. And I think for people of color in this country, like there's so much that we're doing and so much that we're fighting for. So I think that's kind of what it meant to me. It was all of that.
I think everyone for that premiere, everyone probably would have expected you to wear a gown. It's a Disney film, it's Pixar, and that's just ticking the boxes. But you're one of the few girls who are actually a Kim Jones girl, and I know that's a very difficult title to get. Hello, Naomi Campbell. Hello, Kate Moss. That vibe. And you wore a beautiful canary yellow suit, which I think moved the needle for you tremendously. Kim Jones, talk me through how that relationship, and then talk me through what fashion has done for your career and for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, like, Kim is just one of the most incredible humans. I went to one of his dinners and I was just over in the corner being my goofy self, like, not really taking it seriously, just like, oh, I'm here in the corner at this cool fashion party. And he's like, you. He was like, I like you. And
right.
There was another moment of like, wait, me? Like, what do you mean? Because I thought, you're like the fancy people. But he has always been.
Yeah, that's what I love about him. He's so down to earth. He's so real.
So kind.
So real.
And I told him the other day, I was like, you've always included me and you always include everyone. And that is what is so beautiful about your art and your fashion and everything you stand for. It's like I said, we need more people like you, Kim. Like he really is a beautiful soul. And I believe he's an arbiter of change too. Like just a true ally through and through.
Talk about the journey of, because I wasn't your first stylist, but I think it's important to educate. If there's a young actress who might be looking at you working with a stylist, what would you say to them? Because you said something to me when we first met, and as we kind of started doing looks, you said that you felt that I was the first person who saw you, and that touched my heart. And I think that that's something I wish more girls and guys knew in their search for someone to work with them on their style. Because, and you can elaborate on this, talk about how important the fashion is when you go out to present yourself, when you go out to do a press junket or to be on a red carpet.
I've learned just so much in the last few years, and a lot of it has been, you know, my own insecurities and truly not understanding who I was yet, and my reasons for getting a stylist. I think in the beginning it was like, I mean, we're in this Instagram phase, you know, right, where you're seeing all of these like, you know, unrealistic standards of beauty, and you're seeing all these like high fashion all the time, and a lot of it is very kind of exclusive in a sense where you feel like I'll never kind of fit that mold of beauty, and then kind of being a person of color on top of that is like I really did feel super lost. And I think that was a lot of the problem. It was like I've been talking to my therapist a lot about like what I think I should do versus what I want, and that's been a huge theme for me this year of like, you know, thinking what I should do and actually just following my gut. And I think a lot of my gut had been lost throughout this process because I felt like, okay, if you're going to do this press junket, like you have to do this. You have to wear this kind of designer. You have to like look a certain way. You have to present yourself. You have to wear a dress or whatever these kind of societal molds boxes I put myself into. So I was really frustrated, like, because I felt like anytime I present myself, I was just like, I don't feel me. Like, I don't feel in my own body. Like, and you and I talk about this, how it's like, well, that will spread outside of you and that will kind of take over your whole kind of psyche and personality and the way that you operate and the way you're moving through all of these, you know, these cool events or whatever. So when I talk to you, it just another glass shattering moment of like, whoa, because you came at it from such a different angle. I remember I was in a bathroom and you and I talked and you were in London. And I remember you literally asked me, you're like, no, tell me about you. Like, what's your story? And it caught me off guard because I was just like, me? Like, oh, you want to actually know about like me, Allie. And I think that was huge because I'd never made that parallel that fashion should come from you. Like, fashion is just an expression of who you are. Fashion is your story. Fashion is your history. Like, and you were the one who was always like, research, Allie. Let's research our history. Let's research why we're wearing the things we're wearing.
You like I just wanted a cute look. Why are you talking about some research?
And then you were like, what is the story that we're telling, you know? And that was huge for me because I just think, oh, I just put on something and then that's just what it is. That's what I have to do. But with you, it was like, no, this is part of your identity. Like, and then it became fun, and then it became important, and then it became like you and I just like crafting like this beautiful picture. And that's like really what we did. Like, it really is what we did.
It's a narrative, and I think it's important that you create I always say with anybody I work with on their fashion and their style, if this narrative is authentic to you, we can't mess up. So that's always been, I think, authenticity and making sure that it feels you. Because at the end, I always say, you're going to be the one on that carpet with all the photographers screaming your name. So you need to feel comfortable in your skin first so that you can deal with whatever, with that part, because that's stressful as well.
Yeah. And my favorite thing is that we would have our fittings, right? And like, I feel like you're very good about just, you know, having the strategy, but also taking into account that person's very specific style or, you know, kind of personality, which is like a hard line to kind of navigate at times. But I remember we would put something on and instantly you'd be like, okay, stand there, and you'd be like, nope, I know you're not feeling it. Like, I can tell on your face and the way that, you know, I'm like standing.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you helped me a lot with like posing because it is a difficult thing for me. And I think a lot of that was coming because of my insecurity. But what we noticed is like, as we kept kind of more defining each kind of look as we went on, I was getting better and better.
Who has Allie become in quarantine?
I think for me, quarantine has really just forced me to put all the distractions aside. I mean, because Capricorns, we've been working since we got out of the womb. Like, you know, I've been working since I was 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've never known a time where I haven't worked. And it was definitely a huge, like, whoa, what's happening? This is new. This is very scary. This is very weird. But now I feel like it's going to be and is so pivotal to my journey. Like, to strip away all those distractions, to strip away everything you feel like you have to be, and just sit with yourself. It's been so powerful. Like, I feel like I'm 14 years old again, like playing in my room. I really do. Like, that's how special it has been for me. Like, I'm getting to know myself in a new way that's so beautiful, and I think is going to kind of like inform all of my confidence stronger from like the inside out.
What's next? What's on the horizon for you?
I've been able to develop some stuff. It's like all of these stories that have been kind of bubbling up inside of me, I'm finally feel like I'm ready to tell. And I truly think it is because of this quarantine period that I'm like, oh, it's always been enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the one thing that the story that I've always wanted to tell, but been too afraid to tell, I finally realized that that's the story that I need to tell.
You can tell.
And I kept making all these excuses like, no, like, I should tell this story, you know, it could be a little more friendly for this, or I should tell this story. But I've been really trying to dig deeper at every level of like, okay, what do you really want to do? Like, okay, you say that, but Allie, what do you really want to do? And like, I'm just trying to dig away those layers. And
the more uncomfortable it feels,
yeah,
the more reason why you should do it.
100%.
Do it.
And it does feel, it does stir up all these things, and it's so uncomfortable. And you think, well, what are people going to think? Like, what are people going to think? And then I start to think, why is that the first thing I always say? Like,
right.
I think this period is teaching me how to be fearless, weirdly, because it's such a quiet period. So you don't think like, oh, I'm fearless, you know, because you think I'm fearless when I'm going out in the world and I'm doing all these things and I'm breaking down these doors. But there is such a beauty in the quiet fearlessness. And I think we're all building that. We're building this inner strength. Like, we're building our own mountains. We're building our communities. And that's something that no one will be able to take away from us.
If you could go back in time and find your 16-year-old grandmother getting ready to be sent to the internment camp, what would you say to her?
Wow, that's man, I think I would just thank her, like truly, because, you know, along with my mom, like, I look to my grandma every day. Like, everything that I do, I feel strength because of her. She was the most resilient, like the strongest woman that I know, and I feel like I would never have been able to move out at 14, you know, without these strong women in my life, my lineage, like my history. Like, sometimes it feels kind of weird, but I feel her in me. Like, I feel all of these women in my family, like even looking even further back, like, I feel everything they went through. I feel that, like, within my very bones. And I feel like they have given me the courage, like, their sacrifices, everything they went to, you know, that gives me the courage to now go out and try to make change, like, in any way I can.
Allie, you are a light. You are a light. And I think
You are.
when I think about you and where you've come from and your journey so far, I'm excited for what's next for you. If you continue to walk in your greatness, and if you continue to use your voice, it's gonna be powerful. It's gonna be powerful.
Yeah.
It's gonna be powerful.
And I know it's not easy, but that's why I appreciate people like you, and we just got to keep pushing and living that uncomfortableness.
Making change and disrupting is never easy, but it takes people like you to do it, because if you don't have the courage and you don't have the strength to do it, it'll never happen. Thank you for being open, and thank you for sharing your voice with our audience.